regardless of whether one views gender as mainstream or marginal, both within the academic study of international relations and in its practice. It is apparent that gender issues have gained significant visibility in the contemporary politics and require an informed research and analysis. We're talking about women in power, gender within international relations, and diplomacy. To understand a little more about the book, we have one of the editors of the book, Dr. Ankita Dutta, with us. Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, we'd like to talk a little about the book. Shall we begin with questions?
Sure.
Okay. So, the moment we talk about this project, or perhaps when you look at the book, the very first thing that catches our attention is the title, Women and Power. Now, those are the two words that have been put together, not just literally, but also in practice after facing much constraint over the years. How do you think this title is going to resonate with the readers and make an impact?
See, these two words needs to be read in terms of conjunction with the second part of the title, which is gender within international relations.
Of course, yeah.
The idea behind this book is actually to move away from a very stereotypical understanding of gender being based on, femininity and masculinity. Rather, it is an attempt to present a holistic picture. Okay. The idea is very simple. It was twofold. Yes, there is a need to have that kind of, women voices to be heard in international relations and diplomacy. But there have been several examples throughout our own history of women breaking ceilings.
Okay.
So this is what we have tried to do. This is a small step in that understanding that yes, there are binaries, but there is a need to move beyond them and to basically understand that a lot of work and effort has gone into it.
Okay.
And to basically realize the emphasis, the basic idea here is to put that emphasis on the gendered nature of various theories, be it in international relations, be it in diplomacy, be it in human rights. And these are the themes that we have tried to discuss throughout our book. Okay. And that is what it is. So this is a holistic presentation of the current debates that are there in India. Okay. It's a totally India-based book. Okay. We are looking at current scholarship here in India. All the authors are pioneers. They are scholars in their own field, and we have tried to get them together and present us a picture that needs to be presented.
Very well said. I think I'm confident that the book will come out and raise more awareness about this topic and what exactly is the contribution of women to significant domains, as you mentioned, IR, diplomacy, human rights, and everything. So moving on to my next question, we will talk about the feminist point of view. So the question is a bit long, please bear with me. The feminist theorists view gender as a socially constructed institution that views men and women always in relation to each other, whether they're talking about their behaviors, their roles in society, or their identities. Even today, in a world where prominent position holders or key players are in significant domains such as IR, they are and they have been men who come from patriarchal, social, and political backgrounds. How do you intend to bring this visibility of gender issues to in contemporary politics to light?
Of course, representation of women remain at the core of all the arguments that have been presented forever.
Yeah.
It is something that needs to be there. It needs to be something that is discussed. It is something that needs to be put forward. And we need to keep emphasizing on this. Representation of women is must. This is where the real, contribution needs to be made.
Yeah.
Yes. This is one of the fact that is moving on throughout the book. This is a recurring theme in the book.
In all the papers.
All the papers. And there is, what we are emphasizing here is that there is a need to create that space.
Yeah.
For women in decision making, which will lead to their better representation, which would provide voice to those who have been on the margins for a very, very long time. So this will actually help in creating an environment which is inclusive in nature, which accepts the diversity, and it moves forward from there. So we wanted to provide a kind of a very balanced picture over here, that while majority of the areas are male profession, are dominated by male, or most of the professions are dominated by male, but Indian women have frequently and often taken lead in both bilateral and multilateral ways.
Yeah.
See, gender consideration of Indian foreign policy is not new.
Yeah,
it has been there forever. Primarily, they have been there in the development paradigm, development assistance paradigm, or in the peacekeeping. But it has been there.
It has been there.
But the idea is that we need to move beyond these two to include more areas. Be it in terms of human rights, where we are talking about women's rights everywhere. We are talking on it at every platform.
Yeah.
We need to have more debates on that. We need to have like the idea of equal pay.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Equal opportunity. So these are the things that we are trying to portray over here. There are chapters which are specifically devoted
to these issues. Yeah.
Of how women are being represented, how the quantitative representation of the women is required, because that will lead to a society which is much more equal.
Much more equal and inclusive, of course. The core objective perhaps would be to create an environment that is inclusive, one that promotes equality for all, justice for all, and empowerment for all.
Exactly. Women needs to be representative at their core. It's not, see, we can all go into the arguments where we can say, some professions are better suited for one gender.
Those stereotypical notions.
That is the whole idea. We need to break these dichotomies. Because there is we are living in 21st century. We cannot have 19th century or 18th century ideals in our mindset, and we need to move on. And this is the appropriate time when we see so many examples of women actually going forward and saying, no, we can do this.
Yeah, it's past time to think about it. And
you can take several examples. Our Supreme Court has also actually appended the government's position on women serving as army commanders in 2020. So why not women have an active
what's the
role?
Point of not giving women
commissions? Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Our Chandrayaan 2, it was led by two female scientists.
So if they can fly,
I
mean, if they can do that, so what is it that they can't do?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole point. What is it that women can't do?
Yeah. So, okay. So that sums up the entire agenda.
The entire agenda of the book.
So the book is a symposium of various research papers and discussions written by eminent scholars and academicians. Would you agree if I said that the key takeaway from these deliberations was the understanding that the gendered nature of international relations is crucial, and raising both the awareness and the representation of both in national and global politics is a moral imperative. Would you agree?
Yes. It is a moral imperative. I think this is one of the aspects that comes very beautifully out throughout the chapters, even from the beginning towards the end. You see the chapters by Dr. Nabila Sadek, you see a chapter by Dr. Seema Narayan, and they have highlighted how gender and IR are interacting with each other and influencing each other.
Okay, yeah.
You move on to it to understand the gendered nature of IR and the representation of women. It remains at the core as you move through. And it is looked at it from various facets. It is looked at it from, what we are trying to put forward is that the feminist theories have made untold contribution to international studies, to involve politics, and this is something that needs to
be highlighted.
It is something that needs to get acknowledged. That yes, these authors have actually made the voice of one half of the population out there to hear. They have basically pushed forward a point and said, no, this is also something that can be done. This is how it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So this is where the difference comes in.
Yeah.
And this difference needs to be acknowledged. The idea of difference is not wrong. So idea of being different needs to be acknowledged. That will lead to inclusion. That will lead to acceptance of diversity, because you can't leave one half of the population out and say, this cannot be.
While building the nation, you can't just leave one part of the.
Gloria Steinem had said it is one of her most famous quote, and she said, "Don't think about women fitting the world. Think about making the world fit a woman."
Yeah,
and that is the core of the argument.
Yeah. So that sums up the entire thing. Okay, yeah. So in all its sincerity, I would say that's very well put, and I'm in awe of that statement that you quoted at the end. So this question is, I think I really like this question. When we look at the context of the contents of the book, as we get deeper into it, a few papers highlight and recognize that women's rights are human rights. How would you define the basis, or perhaps what are the streams of thought that emerge from this statement?
See, women's rights are human rights.
That's done.
We are entitled, or women are entitled to all the rights that are enshrined under Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which include rights to live free from violence, free from slavery, discrimination, to be educated, to hold property, to vote, but most of all, fair and equal pay.
Okay.
I think that's the necessity of 21st century.
Yeah, I would agree.
And over the periods, you see that the papers in the entire volume are structured as such that you move from thematic to thematic.
Yeah.
You see there are chapters which are primarily devoted to how how the human rights trajectory in India has developed under the wider framework of human rights. Okay. So you have chapters by Professor Vibhuti Sarkar and Dr. Oishik Sarkar.
Yeah.
Vibhuti Patel and Oishik Sarkar in this, which are completely dissecting how women rights are human rights. And then we move on to the multilateral forums, and we see chapters by Ambassador Lakshmi Puri, Dr. Shamita Basu, and then you have entire dissecting of one of the most phenomenal United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. This was amazingly done by I think 3 or 4 of our authors in the book. And they are basically, the core of WPS is, the acceptance of the idea that women are required at peace tables. Yeah. You cannot have peace if you do not have equality between men and women.
Men and women, they have to be included.
Exactly. There are discussions on Sustainable Development Goal 5, which is completely based on gender, and it is not just emphasizing on right to education and right to economic opportunities, but it also goes, it's one of the widest goals that has been set, and it includes reproductive and sexual health. It also includes gender violence, eliminating child marriages. So you had discussions of all these, trafficking,
all the issues basically,
women trafficking, all of these issues have been discussed through various themes. And one of the, I think, the most critical paper that we have in this book is on women's work in India and what needs to be monitored. So it basically delves into the whole idea of how unrecognized, invisibilized women, unpaid labor of a woman is.
Okay.
So it needs to move on.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
We need to move on and look at the real contribution of women to economy. Yeah. And it is also,
it's high time that it's done.
It is high time that is done. We need to acknowledge that there are unpaid women, there are underpaid women, and then there are paid women, paid workers also, which are paid according to the designations and all. But at the end of the day, what we have to do is we have to add to those debates. The debates exist. Yeah. But we need to elevate them at the right levels and at the right platforms, and that is what needs to be done. And this is one such attempt. Yeah, I'm sure, and
I'm positive that the book includes such amalgams of such scholarly discussions, and people will gain from it, I think.
I'm sure, because this has taken a lot of effort. These are really, really eminent scholars in their field. They are internationally recognized, and they are a diverse group.
They have viewed the situation from all angles.
All angles. You have academics in the book, you have practitioners in the book, you have real scholars, we have I think 2 chapters are by diplomats in this.
Yeah, okay.
One retired.
So their perspective also is there.
Yeah. We have tried to amalgamate all the perspectives from all possible angles, and to cover as many themes as possible.
That's terrific. Really, hats off. That leads me to my concluding question. That is, the heart of it all is that it is the women of India and across the world who have to play a proactive role for bringing in a better tomorrow and making world a better place. I think it's not. Personally, I don't think it's the only. It's the job of women only. But since we're talking about it, is there anything else that you'd like to add to it or share a message?
What we have tried to do in this is kind of 4 ideas we had once when we sat down to conceptualize the entire thing. Is first, we need to recognize the significance of study of gender and practice of gender in international relations. Second, we need to highlight the scholarship of feminist thinkers. And scholars and practitioners of how they do international relations and diplomacy. We also tried to highlight some of the gaps and challenges in India pertaining to our Indian foreign policy, pertaining to where, a difference can be made. And we have also tried to highlight how feminist thinkers try to reimagine the what, how, and why of international relations. We have also pushed a point, and I think this is one of the most interesting points that we have pushed, and it resonates throughout the book, is an idea of a very gender-sensitive Indian foreign policy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've read about it.
Yeah. So this has been one of the most important deliberations of the book, and this is where I think we try to make a difference, because we are highlighting the discussions by practitioners, by scholars, by academics, by everybody. We are trying to be as inclusive as possible when we are trying to push a point here. We are trying to push a point here. This is high time. Time is very, very ripe to have these discussions on gender mainstreaming, to have this to move towards a gender-sensitive foreign policy. And how we are going to define it, well, that's a debate for another day.
Yeah, but probably that's highlighted in the book as well. So
it is. And we have, we've tried to do our best in a debate that is there. We have tried to add something new to it, and we hope that it's a success.
Now, while I'm pleased that women have gained, renowned fame in all the significant domains, but there is still much more to be done.
There is a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, what is required is the acknowledgement of those achievements. And acknowledgement leads to more enthusiasm to work. So if you give a right platform to a right person at a very right time, why not?
Yeah. So I think this book would be one such acknowledgement. Yeah,
we hope so, because the editors of the book are both women.
Yeah, so congratulations, kudos. That's great.
But I did try to keep it gender balanced. We do have papers by men.
Okay, so that's how it's done. So studies and researches like this must continue in order for people to realize what is the contribution of women, not just in IR or diplomacy, but throughout all the significant domains. And women of India, on the other hand, should continue to inspire by being who they are, like herself and myself. So signing off, this is Garima Malhotra, and we had an interesting chat on women in power, gender within international relations and diplomacy. This is Dr. Ankita Dutta. Ma'am, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.